If it doesn't work on this, I'm going to have to do it on my phone. Okay.
It's working.
Let's see if this works now. It was on the wrong microphone setting. So I don't know how it got on that. Okay. Let's see. Let's wait and see if anyone joins me. Okay. There we go. Okay, good. Yes, they can hear me. Awesome. So we got 5 people. All right. There's more people coming on. Hello, Dana, again. All right. Sorry about the technical difficulties. For some reason, it was on the wrong microphone setting. So now we have that right. But yes, as I was saying, I'm doing it from home because as you can see behind me, it's dark outside. And as it gets darker earlier, I don't like to do it at the church. It's just kind of creepy. If you've ever been in a church at night and it's dark out, it's creepy when you're there by yourself. So I'm at home, so there might be noises in the background. There might be activity, but hopefully, you can just overlook that. That's life in a lot of kids. So, so welcome. Hopefully everyone finds the new link. I'm sure they will. I already put the other one on private, so there won't be 2 videos confusing you guys. So hello, Tommy, can you go help her, please? So hello, Ashley and Rita and Grammy and Dana and David and Stephanie Ray. I'm assuming Stephanie Ray, Amanda, La Familia and Dorothy and Anna. All right, everyone's finding it. Great. So I wanted to do hello, Monica, Catherine, Heather, Sky again. All right, so anyone else that pops in, hello to all of you. So I want to do this topic. I was just kind of thinking about it. I actually did not have a topic picked out until this morning. We had a super crazy week last week. I was gone out of town. We did a soul winning event in Indiana. So I was gone Friday and Saturday there, came back, was back late. And then Sunday where I was at church the entire day. So I was thinking about this topic this morning and I just thought it would be good, thinking back, looking back in my life at families that have raised successful kids and families that have raised not so successful kids. I was thinking this would be a good subject to talk about and just give some pointers. Obviously, I have not raised my kids to adults yet. Almost there. My oldest will be 18 in 3 months. I've not raised them totally, but so far I am happy with how they're turning out. So hopefully it continues. So, we all want to raise functioning members of society. And when I say that too, we want to raise adults, humans that contribute. We don't want them being leeches on society or being low lives or ending up in prison or, involved in a life of crime, obviously. We want functioning members of society. My main goal as a mom is to raise kids who first and foremost love the Lord, who are faithful to church, soul winning, and serving the Lord, and just be successful adults all around. I want my boys to be able to hold down jobs. I want my daughters to be good moms and good wives, and know how to do things around the home. So we all want that for our children, I think, especially the ones that watch my channel. I know our hearts are all in the right place when it comes to raising our children. So, you can do some things with your kids from the time that they're small to push them to accomplish things, to do better, to succeed, and to accomplish things in life. And some of these things we have been doing with our children from the time they were young. And so I just kind of wanted to give some tips of things we do, maybe some things that you can start implementing with your children, and I always throw this disclaimer out there. Obviously, every family is different. So what works for my family might not work for your family. Also, every child has a different temperament. So what works for my children might not work for your children. Every home environment is different. So just keep that in mind as we go through these. But, first and foremost, to raise successful children, we need to raise them with a strong work ethic. That's hard to say. Raise them with a strong work ethic. Really encourage your children from the time they're young that work is a good thing. Working hard is a good thing. You're a loser if you don't work hard. And yes, we told our boys that from the time they were little, don't be a wimp. Don't be weak. You need to grow up to be a strong man. You need to work. things like that. So from the time they were little, my husband would have the boys out with him doing everything, chopping wood. And even if they're obviously not chopping wood with an axe, he would have them carry sticks or, stack up logs or just do physical things. He always had them out mowing the lawn. And now I can't remember the last time he's mowed. And we live on 3 acres. And for the most part, my boys do all the yard work. They do the weed eating and the mowing and everything. I don't remember the last time, like I said, my husband even mowed. So if he mows now, it's because he wants to and he has time. But for the most part, our boys, tell me, how long have you guys been doing the mowing by yourself? My son's sitting right over there. It's been a really long time since they've been doing it by themselves. What, you think you were about 12 or 13? You were younger than that? Maybe younger than that. So it's been a long time that they've been doing the yard work by themselves. And that only happened because from the time they were young, my husband had them out there with him, mowing the lawn, showing them how to do things, making them be out there, getting the sun, playing outside with them. So teach them that they need to have a strong work ethic, make work a non-negotiable. They don't get to get out of it. They have to do things around the house. They have to help you out. There's no getting out of it. So, and then I came up with some age appropriate chores. This might look different in every household. And maybe people, I think I need to step it up with Lana because we had just cleaned, it was the other day, we had just cleaned the house. And my husband was asking the kids what they did or something. And Lana's just like, I don't do anything. I just hang out or something like that. And I was like, oh boy, I need to start implementing some stuff with her. And because she's number 6, a lot of times most of the jobs are done, by the time it gets down to her. So one thing I kind of have her do is I have her help me set the table a lot of times for dinner. She'll do that, but do age appropriate chores. So like 1 through 5, I would keep them near you as you work, talk as you're doing it, show them how you're doing things. Explain things because they're not going to grow up to do things the way you like it if you never teach them how. So obviously from 1 to 5, just keep them nearby. From 6 to 8, they can start, setting the table, and Lana sets the table too. So this can be even younger. Sweeping. Now their coordination takes a little bit to get, but when they're real little, you can get them one of those cute toy sweeper sets and just have them practice with you. So then by the time they get to be 6 or 8, they can sweep on their own, clearing the table, the counters, picking up clutter and straightening their room, making their bed, putting away their dirty clothes in the hamper, things like that. So 9 through 10, they can do the garbages, taking out garbages, wiping down bathrooms, vacuuming, cleaning up clutter, taking care of animals. And you can even have the younger ones take care of the animals, have them feed and water the animals, tell them that's your job. Maybe that's what I should do for Lana. Make sure that she does that, feeds the kittens every morning. And then 11 through 12, I'm sorry, they can start cooking, baking, following recipes, cleaning all major areas, dusting, mopping, sweeping, vacuuming. So by 11 and 12, they should be pretty knowledgeable when it comes to these chores, because they're pretty old at that point. And then 13 and up, they should be able to run a household, plan meals, take care of babies, practicing the music on their own. Most of my kids have taken music lessons when they were real little, especially with piano. I had to really oversee it and force practice time, things like that. But as they've gotten older, they kind of become more independent, and then they start loving it and they start doing it on their own. So by the time they're 13, though, most of my kids, I'm fully confident in how old's Abby? 14-year-old, that she could run the household when I'm gone. And she has ran the household when I was gone. And she can plan meals, she can cook. My 12-year-old can follow a recipe and bake and cook. And I haven't tried it with my 9-year-old yet. She hasn't really cooked much on her own, but my 14-year-old could run the household. My 17-year-old does take care of the kids if we ever go out of town. He is fully competent to make decisions and things along those natures. So by the time they're 13 and up, they should be pretty competent in running a household. I always tried to make it with my children. I always wanted to make them independent so that if something were to happen to me, and I don't know, I was to get in a car accident and I was away from them for 2 or 3 days, that they would be fully capable of running the house on their own, being independent, knowing what to do, knowing what decisions to make, having a good head on their shoulders. So that's always been my goal with my children. And I feel like with a lot of families, they don't do this. It's almost like it is hard work teaching them at the beginning, teaching them to be independent. And, a lot of times you just want to do things the way you want to do them because it gets done better most of the time. But they're never going to learn and they're going to be very dependent on you. And I just didn't want my kids to be like that. So I always tried to get them to be more independent as they grew up. So let me read some of this chat. Megan said, I wasn't raised to work hard and was foolish and didn't require my kids to do much work. Oh my, the consequences have been devastating and damage control has been difficult. I'm sorry about that. If you have a lot of children, though, the beauty of this is that you can go and you're not done raising them. So you can continue to try to implement things with your younger kids. We learn from our mistakes and we strive to do better. So Ashley says, I have the kids I nanny for help me carrying groceries and help me take the clothes out of the dryer. They are small. That's good to get them into that habit. And then they're learning how to do things as you're doing it. They're learning how to switch clothes and put away groceries. Most of the time when I go grocery shopping, my daughters put away all the groceries. My boys carry them in. My daughters put them away. So I pretty much go and get the food, buy the food, and then they do the rest. So Kelly said, I'm having a problem with my oldest son doing most of the work and the younger brothers being lazy. My oldest son is sitting in the background nodding his head. I knew he would. But I get so distracted with all the other things I'm doing, I haven't addressed it yet. Ideas. What I would do and what I have done is I actually write down on paper the chores that are assigned to each one of them. And I tell them, follow the list. And some of them are still learning this, and it aggravates me when they don't know how to read a list and just do it. Because I'll be like, I'll look at the list. Did you do this? And if they haven't, I just get so aggravated. So I would divvy up the chores for each child. That way they can't get out of it. And if they don't do the chore on the list, then there's consequences for that. So, yes, the oldest does tend to do, yeah, my oldest girl's like that too. The oldest tends to just want to do things their way a lot of times, and they are usually hard workers. So they will jump in and they'll just be like, oh, just let me do this. Just let me do this. So they'll do that. So I would just divvy up the chores because I want my younger ones to learn how to work hard too, not just my not just my oldest boy and my oldest girl. So I definitely try to divvy up the chores. Stephanie said, my 4-year-old daughters just help me fold towels and hang their own dresses instead of wanting to get it done fast and just do it myself. I need to take the time and let them do it. And that's the thing. Everything is faster when we do it. And it does get frustrating. But you need to let them cook on their own. You need to let them figure out the recipe on their own. You need to let them make messes and then clean them up. I know it's hard to do at times, but you need to let them. Let's see. So Cindy said, I love having my kids help me. They are older now and will do chores without being asked or told to do it. It's all about structure for me. That's really good. When you get to the point where your kids will do things on their own without you having to nag them, tell them, then you've done a good job raising them, teaching them how to work. So that's always the end goal, when they can do things without you having to keep after them the entire time. Ashley asked, does anyone do allowance with their kids? I'd like to hear you guys' answers. For the most part, we don't. I always tell them, you live here, you are a part of this family, you can take part in cleaning. I do extra money for extra chores, things that are like, cleaning the basement, helping clean the garage. A lot of times when Abby watches Kelly, because during piano lessons or something, then I'll give her something. So they can actually make money doing extra chores. Maybe it's extra yard work, things like that. But for the regular things, the cooking, the cleaning, things like that, no. I'm like, we pay for you to live here, so why am I going to pay you to clean up after yourself? So, but those are the chores that I kind of do based on age in my house. And the biggest thing is just model being a hard worker to them. Let them see you be a hard worker. Let them see you not sit around on the computer or Facebook all day watching soap operas, if those are even still a thing. you know, things like that. Let them see you be a hard worker. Let them see you step out of your comfort zone and do things that aren't comfortable to you, but then watch as you get better at them and watch when you're successful at them. Let them see you do hard things. I'm trying to think of an example of this. One of the things is when I was giving private lessons at the place I worked part time, they really wanted me to do like a preschool class with the parents in there. And I would have to run this whole class with the parents in there. And I was not excited about that. I am an extrovert, but it was just something I had never done before. I would be teaching music and we would be doing songs, singing songs, things like that. And it was for like little kids and both sets of parents. And I was just, ugh, I didn't really want to do it, but it was something that they wanted me to do. So it was a little out of my comfort zone because I had just been teaching private lessons, one on one. And so I decided to do it. But one of the things was I don't want to get stagnant. I don't want to just be doing the same thing all the time. I want to stretch myself and grow and learn. And even just starting the music academy, my piano academy that I've done, it really made me step out of my comfort zone. And I had to learn a lot of new stuff when it came to computers and websites and scheduling and apps and all this stuff. But I don't want to ever get to where I'm just comfortable doing the status quo or just comfortable being mediocre. I don't want to be mediocre in my life and I don't want my kids to be mediocre. So I try to provide an example of doing things that I'm not comfortable with necessarily. Because, like Karen says, from our house, everything is hard before it's easy. And I want them to see that sometimes it is hard work, but the payoff is always good. It was so much hard work getting it ready, getting it up and running. And it's been very successful so far. So, I'm loving the way it's going. My students are loving the way it's going. And I'm so glad that I just took the step and did it. And that's really good for your kids to see, seeing you step out of your comfort zone, seeing you always learn new things. I love learning new things. I've never stopped learning since I got out of high school. Since I graduated, I feel like I just have learned more and more and more all the time. I just love learning. Even if I'm watching a movie or something based off a true story, I have to look up the story and learn about the story behind it and learn about everything that goes into it. I just love learning all this new stuff. So oh, let me see. Dana said, I love our house idea with table chores and then regular chores. We started that this past week and it's making things so much easier. I think she just did a video too, um, where it's like a chore wheel. I thought it was really, really cute that you can make on Canva. It's really cute, especially if you have younger kids and they're real visual and they like to, see that, then that's a really good idea. So check out her video on that, on the chores that she does and her little chore wheel and everything. So that was really cute. I did watch that one. Okay, so give them things to succeed at. Okay, give them a challenge. Don't be afraid to challenge them. Don't be afraid to challenge them to do better things, to win at things, to succeed at things. And one of the things that made me think about this subject was just last week in our town, they have a huge like pumpkin festival. And they have like cross country races for every age group for like 1 and 2 year olds, 3 and 4, or I think it's up to 1, and then 1 and 2 year olds, 2 and 3 year olds, 4 and 5 year olds, 6 and 7, 8 and 9, 10, 11, 12. So they go all the way up to 12, and the distances get further and further back with each age group. And it's a big deal in our house. It's real fun. They have bounce houses and a petting zoo, and they have like hundreds and hundreds of kids that race. So they usually have several heats of maybe 25 kids that run at one time, 25 to 30 kids that run at the same time. They do several rounds of it for each age group. That's how many kids there are. And Allie, my 9-year-old, she has won for the past 2 years before this one, past 2 years, and Lana had never won. And after last year, Lana came in like third, I think. And she just kept saying the whole year, "Oh, I really want to win. I really want to win." And we were like, "Well, you got to work. Go outside and run around. Keep on running. You got to get better at running. Maybe you'll win." And then we gave her all these pep talks before. Just look at the finish line. Just don't look behind you. Just look at the finish line. You can do it. We know you're fast. You can do it. And the same thing with Allie. Well, this year they both competed and they both won in their age group. And Lana was like, talking, and she was saying it was the greatest day of her life. It was a dream come true. And it was just really, really cute that she had that success. She'll never forget that, even winning that at 5 years old. And Allie won again. And it was cute to see because she's always so pumped for it and so ready to run and stuff. But that's just one of those things. As parents, you like to see them work towards a goal. Lana's goal was to run in the pumpkin dash and win, and she did it. And it was just so cute seeing how she, lit up and how that made her day. And, she had a sense of accomplishment. So do things like that, whether it's running a race or playing in a piano recital. You would not imagine you would not believe, not imagine, you would not believe the amount of confidence it gives to kids when um, they are persuaded by their parents to work on a song, work on it for half hour a day, sometimes for weeks leading up to the big event. And they know they work hard, they put the time in, and then they get up in front of everyone and they play it in front of everyone and they get over that hurdle. And when they take that bow or that curtsy, they always have such I just love it. I used to love giving recitals. I loved seeing it. There's a huge smile, huge sense of accomplishment, and that will really help them as they get older. Every kid needs to try to succeed at something and to succeed. So give them things to try to succeed at. Give them music lessons, make them perform in recitals. There's a lot of times when parents will not make their children do anything because they don't want to force them. And it really harms the child because then they never have that sense of accomplishment. They never know what that's like to really work hard at something and to overcome obstacles and to finish well. And they just never know what it's like to have that sense of accomplishment. So really push your kids give them stuff to succeed at. Teach them to be a good winner. There's bad winners. Teach them not to be braggadocious, but to be humble about it. But it's okay to be excited too. It's okay to be excited that you won. It's not bad if you're excited, but teach them to be a loser as well. And one of the things that comes with losing as well that I've noticed, a lot of we've tried not to do with our kids is don't give them excuses if they lose. Don't be like, well, if I don't know, what's an excuse? If you would have just eaten healthier this morning, then you would have won because you're so fast. Or, if that other person looked older than you, I bet they were older than you. I bet they're not even your age. If they would have been your age, you would have beat them. Teach them that sometimes there's just people that are better than you. And there's always going to be people that are better than you at something. And have them graciously realize that there are always people better at stuff than you, and then use that as a motivator to make yourself become better. I know when it comes to certain areas in my life that there are always going to be people better at things than me. There's going to be better piano players. There's going to be better moms. There's going to be better pastors' wives. There's going to be better writers. There's going to be better, people that are better with their time management. But I don't let that get me down or make me, be like, well, why even try? Everyone's gonna be better than me. I use that to help spur me on to try to make myself better. Work with what you have, work with the talents that God has given you. The truth is, there's a lot of people that are really good at some things, but they're doing nothing with it. So use the talent that God has given you and use it for good and use it to better yourself and use it to teach your kids. So teach them to be a good winner, a good loser. Teach them that if they do lose, well, then keep trying to. Can you go tell her that the baby's awake? Teach them if they do lose, then the next time they just try harder. and if they do their best, then just, oh well, sometimes there's just people faster than you or there's people better than you. That's just life. God made us all differently. So Karen said a very good thing. Our house said, yes, teaching kids about failure is a great way to help them be successful. Stretching ourselves to try new things really helps to break out of that autopilot fog we can get stuck in. And I totally agree, because you do need to learn. You need to learn how to fail as well as learn how to, and oftentimes failure is on the path to success. There's so many times it's one failure after another, and you fail, more often than you succeed. But when you finally succeed, then it makes it all worth it. So there's a lot that I could even talk about with everything when it comes to, succeeding at things in life, failing at things in life, but also just teach them that if failures will come along in their life. But the main point is that they get up and they try again. I know there's that Bible verse that talks about a just man falling, and then it also talks about how he keeps getting up. So just men it says right there that just men are going to fail. But the difference in them and then people that are not successful is that the successful ones get up and keep trying. So, but yeah, emphasize healthy living to them. This will help them be successful. A lot of times the way that your health is determines a lot of things in life. For girls, it can determine children or no children. Even the same with males, it can determine children or no children. Being at a healthy weight will help you succeed in life. It's hard to do things when your health is very poor. It's hard to do things if you're very obese. That makes life, living life harder. You are putting more strain on all your organs. You're putting more strain on your legs and your ankles. So if you maintain a healthy weight, that's going to help you succeed and go further in life. It's going to help you live longer. It's going to help you have healthier children when you are pregnant. So a healthy, teaching them to be healthy is very important at succeeding in life. Keep them active. Have them do running. And sometimes my husband will come home and he'll just want to go on a hike somewhere. So we'll go for a long hike somewhere. Have them riding their bikes outside. Have them doing activities outside. Don't keep them cooped up in the house all the time. Get a trampoline. Go to the gym. Our gym has a track. A lot of times in winter when we're cooped up, we'll go there and then we'll just have our kids run around and around and around. And they have like a soccer area in the middle. And so we'll just like run around and play soccer with them just to keep them active. They don't need to be sitting around at home all the time eating Twinkies and, getting obese. So that is, I know weight in that is a very touchy subject. And obviously I even have some weight I need to lose, but it's going to be healthier on you and your future pregnancies if you try to maintain a healthy weight. And I'm not even necessarily going by the BMI scale, but maintaining a healthy weight where you feel comfortable and where you're not overexerting yourself because maybe you're too heavy. It's not putting strain on your knees or your legs or your back, keeping yourself at a healthy weight so you can be productive. So you're not in pain and agony all the time. So that is very important. Teach them the importance of staying in shape and eating right. Teach them that it's better to eat right than drinking Monsters all day. As I'm looking at my son, trying to get that across to him. But with 17 and 16-year-old boys, it's really tough sometimes. Teach them. Oh yeah, I already said that. Teach them the importance of staying in shape and eating right. Let your boys get a job. And this is hard for moms to do, but let them get yelled at occasionally. And even let them get yelled at by other adults. Even if you're around, let them get yelled at. It's not going to harm them, and it's going to teach them how to react in the face of conflict. They're going to need to learn how to react in times of conflict, especially if they're around people at all. Being in the ministry, I have dealt with conflict many, many times. And you will learn even when you're being screamed at, to check on your temper, first of all, to keep check on your temper and not to react. So that is actually good for your boys to have to learn how to react to conflict because they are going to be providing for their family and they will run into conflict on their job and they will have to know how to deal with it and they will have to know how not to fly off the handle, how not to react even if they are undeserving. So, do you mind me telling that story of when you were at camp and that adult yelled at you that one time?
It's fine. It's fine.
So my son was at camp. I was kind of observing all this, and the mama bear in me obviously wanted to get involved, but I kept this. My husband and I have always been like this with our kids. We want them to learn how to react to people yelling at them, criticism, whatever. And what did you had done? You had taken a flag or something, the team's flag, and hidden it from.
We got in a fight over it and then broke it.
Yeah, it was like each team had different flags. And so my son and a couple of his friends, I think my son was probably the ringleader though, weren't you? Yeah, maybe. My son was the ringleader. My son and a couple of his friends had grabbed the flag. They had gotten a fight over it or something. I mean, not like a punching fight, but they had gotten the flag, and the dad of one of the boys that was involved that the flag got stolen from. And a lot of times they would steal each other's flags for fun. So, they had their flag stolen. But at this particular time, the dad really got mad, like really mad. So he came after my son, and I could see the whole thing happening from across the camp. I'm like standing there watching, and I see him go charging after my son, and I'm just like, don't get involved, don't get involved. And I saw him ream out my son, like just yell at him. And I was like, oh, the only thing I was thinking of, my son better be respectful. That's what I was thinking as I watched the whole thing. So I'm standing there watching it, and I'm just watching Tommy. Did you even know I was watching? No, he didn't even know I was watching the whole time. And so I'm just watching my son, and I'm like, let's see if he's going to do the right thing. And I saw him be very respectful, and I saw him. But by the time it ended, the dad had calmed down, and they shook hands. Did you guys shake hands? They had, yeah. He kind of felt bad after he freaked out on him, and he shook his hand, and they parted. They parted good. And so I actually, so I had not gotten involved. I stayed out of it. Then a little while later, I was talking to the man, and I was like, I hope my son, and he was like, I just want to tell you, I am so impressed by how your son handled it. He was looking at me when he's talking. He explained the whole thing, and, I probably overreacted, but I was just so good. I was so glad he did it that way, because if my son would have reacted in a negative way and been a jerk to an adult, it could have blown up into a huge situation. So I was really proud of him that day, because he took the rebuke from the man, and he had deserved it. He had stolen the flag from his son, and I think they ended up breaking it or something. So he deserved to be yelled at, and he took it and he handled it very respectfully. So get your kids to where they can handle, even if they do deserve it or if they don't deserve it. So stay out of their problems. Let them figure out how to resolve conflict. When it comes to my kids with other kids at church, I try not to get involved. If it is something where they can work it out on their own, then I let them work it out on their own. Or if I see something where my kid is involved with another kid and my kid is doing something I do not agree with, I will not go to that other, or maybe another kid in the church is doing something I don't agree with my kid. I do not go to the parents of that kid and say, listen, your kid was doing this with my kid, and I don't think that's acceptable. You need to get a hold of your kid. No, when it comes to my kids, if I see them doing something with another kid that I do not approve of, I will deal with my kids. And that's that. I will not deal with the other people's kids, because that is not my jurisdiction. Now, obviously, if it's at the church and it's something where they're going to get hurt, I'll step in, say, don't do that. But if it's something trivial, they're not going to get hurt, they're not going to hurt anyone else, then I'm not going to go to that parent and tattletale complain. I'm going to just deal with my child and leave it at that. I think a lot of parents get way too involved in little squabbles that their kids have, and it ends up blowing into a huge situation where it could have just been handled by you telling your kid to knock it off. Okay, they're sitting by each other in church, and you don't like how they're talking. Well, make your kid sit by you and tell him he's in trouble if he, talks. You don't go to the other kid's parents and be like, hey, keep your kid from talking. No, you keep your kid from talking. So I'm always big on that when it comes to things in church. Deal with your own kids and don't worry about the other people's kids. And a lot of times when you get involved overly with your kids' situations, then it turns into a big fiasco. So be careful about that. Okay, so teach them social skills and how to talk to people. This is a big one. I see a lot of homeschool kids that, Tommy, I see a lot of homeschool kids where they do not learn, they have not learned how to talk to adults. They've not learned how to talk to other kids. They're kind of just awkward and shy. They're going to have to interact on a social level as they grow up and they're adults when they're working a job for boys. If they're girls and they have to go to doctor's appointments or whatever it is, they have to learn to interact with people. So teach them that. That's a skill. It's a social skill. Teach them to be socially aware. Teach them good hygiene. Teach them not to smell and to gross everyone out. Teach them to brush their teeth. This is all stuff people have to teach their kids. And if you want them to be functioning members of society, you have to teach them this stuff. And sadly, a lot of parents are not teaching their kids this. So make sure if you guys have any questions, you leave it in chat as we're talking. I'm trying to cover most of it. So teach them to be independent. One thing I've always done with even my girls from the time they were little, when we would go someplace and we would be eating out or getting ice cream or something, I always would have them pay for themselves. Or gas stations. If we stop at a gas station, which we tend to do on church days a lot, and they're buying gum or buying, candy or whatever they're buying, I have them pay for it. Even Lana does, just because I think that's a good habit for them to get into, to learn how to interact with people, learn how to pay, learn how to count out money, things like that. So teach them to be independent and to know how to do things on their own. Teach them not to be so rely so much on you. Maybe it's because I have 7 kids. And I don't know, maybe you guys can tell me if this is true with the ones that have big families. Like Kelly Logan, I'm wondering if this is true because I know you have a large family too. Do you think that we tend to try to get our kids to be more independent because we have so many kids? Or is this something that even, moms with just 2 kids, maybe 3 kids, do they strive to get them to be as independent as well? Because honestly, when I have 7 kids, I cannot do absolutely everything for every kid. I would be exhausted. There's not enough of me to go around. So I'm wondering if that's a big family thing, teaching them independence, teaching them how to be self-reliant, and teaching them not to be so reliant on you. Maybe that's a big family thing. But Heather said, I have taught my children how to use cash and debit cards. I now can send my oldest son into the grocery store alone and come out with everything on the list at good prices. Mine too. I send mine to the store all the time with my debit card. So, but he's, 17. But I think even down to Abby know how to use the cash and debit card. Chloe, I would send in with cash. I don't know if I would send in my debit card yet. She's 12. But the 3 older ones know how to. Sky said, sadly, I'm teaching hygiene now when they're 17, 18. They weren't taught this growing up. That's hard when they haven't learned it by that age. And, they really need to learn, because it's one thing when you're 5 and you haven't had a bath in 4 days. It's another thing when you're 18 and you haven't had a bath in 4 days. That's disgusting, and you're going to smell. And then you're going to make it uncomfortable for everyone around you. And that, successful people have good hygiene. They dress presentably. They dress, they dress for success, I guess. They do their hair, they brush their teeth, they put on deodorant, they bathe. Successful people are not stinky people. So maybe just tell your kids that successful people don't stink. And Heather said her oldest is 13. That's pretty good. And I feel like too, with the oldest, they are going to be a lot more responsible than maybe say the younger ones, because we do expect them from like the time they're 6, we're like, help me with younger kids, help me buckle them in, help me get them unbuckled, help carry them, so from the time they're little, we expect a lot more. I was the oldest, and I always say that the oldest is the guinea pig, because it's like they have to go through all of the parental training, I guess. So, Yeah, Dana, you always wanted your kids to be independent. I've always been that way. I guess I was kind of independent growing up, and I kind of just wanted my kids to be the same way. As Samantha said, I'm teaching my children how to pay for things, looking people in the eye, putting the money in the cashier's hand instead of throwing it on the counter, etc. That's good. Teach your kids how to interact with people. Obviously, you do this with a grain of salt. Teach them that they aren't too friendly with people. Obviously, teach them boundaries. Teach them that they don't have to give their name, their age, things like that. But teach them to be respectful of people that you run into in public. That's always a good thing, and I don't think it's being taught nowadays. So, don't get involved in every squabble they have with their friends. They need to figure that out too. If they get in a fight, you don't need to be calling up their friend's mom and being like, "How can we remedy this? This is so sad. They're in a fight." Just leave them alone. Let them figure it out themselves. They're going to eventually have to do that on their own. They're going to get married, and they're going to have to figure out how to work through conflict, because every marriage is going to have conflict. So exhibit that. I have never been one that thinks it's awful for kids to see their parents fight. I'm not talking like knock down, drag them. What is that? Knock out, drag them down fights where you're like, your husband's beating you. Obviously, not talking about that. I'm talking about arguments from day to day, because every couple gets into them. I think it's good for kids to see that their parents do argue, but they always work through it. They do argue, but they come to some sort of understanding with each other, or compromise, or they get over it. They make up. So my kids have definitely seen my husband and me argue, and it's rare. I mean, it doesn't happen very often, but we do argue at times, and I've never really tried to hide that from them. I think it's it's good for them to see you work through conflict, and how to what is the word? How to correctly work through it. Not correctly, that's not the word I'm looking for. How to healthfully, that's not the word I'm looking for. What am I looking for? How to have a healthy relationship, and how to, work through problems correctly, I think is what I'm trying to look for. How to healthy relationship. I'm fumbling for words. Hopefully you got my point. They need to see you work through conflict with your spouse, because someday they will be married and they will have an argument, and maybe that's going to be in their, and they need to learn that it's not time to divorce someone if you get into an argument for the first time and you can't come to an understanding. In fact, my son was working, and he was telling him, they were talking about marriage and divorce, and the guy was just like, divorce, you have to be divorced. What if you're married to someone and you can't agree on something? Then you just need to get divorced. And my son's like, that's not how it works. It was just ridiculous how the guy thought that if you don't agree on absolutely everything, you might as well just get divorced. And that's what kids are seeing. They're seeing that nowadays. 60% of marriages end in divorce. And I remember when I was growing up, it was like 40 or 50%. Now it's up to like 60%. So your kids need to see you work through conflict. So, definitely teach them that. And then my last point is, emphasize God in your day-to-day life, be real, and your kids will pick up on it. Your kids are not going to want to serve God and live the Christian life if you're one way at church and you're another way at home. If you're acting spiritual at church, but then you get home and you're throwing things at your husband and throwing things at your kids. And maybe you even have like Christian sayings all over your wall, but you're just completely fake. You act like you hate everybody, and you act nice in person, but then you're just a tyrant at home. Your kids are going to pick up on that. They can tell fakes when they see it. They're not stupid. They know when someone's being a hypocrite. So don't let your children see you being a hypocrite. Have them see you place God first in your life. Have them see you be interested in the Bible and take it for, don't be acting all spiritual, like you're hardcore in church, but then at home, you don't have any place for the things of God. You don't want to read the Bible. You don't want to try to better yourself. You just are, grouch and yelling and screaming, be the real thing. So Dana said, my husband comes from a large family of 9. However, my parents love my kids, but are always at me. You're done now, right? I'm sure a lot of us ladies on here get that, especially as we get older. So let me go over this chat real quick. Samantha said, Dana, you'll give many people a heart attack these days saying you only have 5 kids. I have 4, and I think my family may schedule an intervention soon whenever I get pregnant again. That's funny. Rita said, my husband and I have 3 daughters, aged 18, 16, and 15, and each one is independent and can run a household and do the grocery shopping. That's awesome. I think that's an awesome place to have them at, even if they're that young. 15, that's young, but that's really good to know how to run a household, how to know how to cook, and make sure it's picked up and it's clean and things. So rapid fire tips. Great work, Ms. McMurtry. Thank you. You're welcome. I hope that helps a little bit. That is just some things I have learned growing up. That's some things that we've tried to instill with our kids. Obviously, no family is perfect, and there's always areas we can improve on. I'm probably not as structured as I need to be. I'm kind of like in the middle. I'm not like hardcore in schedules, but it's not a free for all the time either, if that makes sense. I do think that kids need some structure, but I don't want to be so structured that there's no wiggle room for spur of the moment things. So if you guys have any other comments or tips that you have found to work for you, go ahead and leave them in the chat. Also, I would like to hear from moms that have raised successful children, moms that have raised boys that go on to get good paying jobs that will support a family really well, moms that have raised girls that from the time they got married, they were able to run a household and cook and clean and knew the ropes and things like that. I want to hear from you guys, from you seasoned mamas, and I want to hear the tips that you have. I want to hear what you did with your kids. Those are just some things that we have done from the times our kids were younger. And my 2 oldest boys, they are hard workers. In fact, everywhere they go, my son was very young. My oldest son was very young when he worked the corn every year, detasseling, and he was put as a crew leader from a very young age because he was just a good hard worker. And even that with him, it was one of those teaching areas because it really stretched him and pushed him out of his comfort zone. But I just told him, I know it's uncomfortable because he had to call a million of the kids, and, he was in charge basically of getting them to show up for work and all this stuff. And he actually even had to fire a couple boys one time, but it was good for him. It taught him leadership skills that pushed him out of his comfort zone. I don't want my kids to ever get to the point where they're just happy to just sail along life and not better themselves. I'm always pushing myself to become better, to do more things, to use my talent in a way God would have me use it. So I want the same for them. I want to push them to be better and to do great things for God and to be able to support a family where if they do get married and they want their wife to stay home with a bunch of kids, that they'll be able to financially provide for them. And if they're a loser, if I'm raising a loser that plays video games all day and doesn't want to ever work, then that's going to affect my future grandchildren someday. And I definitely do not want that. So just keep that in mind as you're raising your children. How do I want them to be to my future grandchildren? And maybe that'll help keep things, in perspective. So Dana, I'm glad you like it. Thank you. I fumble around a lot trying to find the right words, but I'm hoping I'm getting the point across. And then Bell 1611 said, this is very important. Common sense it may be, but truly amongst fellow Christians, the children are lacking these life skills. They really are. And sad to say, I've been around Christian families, my whole life pretty much, but I've been in church ministry for almost 20 years. And I've seen a lot of kids in good Christian homes that are not they're not being taught this. It's like their mom and dad had it so hard growing up. They don't want any hardship for their kids at all. And that's just not healthy. Your kids need to go through hard things. They need to work hard at succeeding. They need to, have failures that teach them how to succeed. And I feel like my generation, we need to be careful not to spoil our children and not to make things too easy for them. Because honestly, I was talking about it with my husband today. Um, we've had to scrape for every little thing that we've had in life, and we've had to work hard. And just even planting, when it comes to planting a church and him working all the jobs he does to support us while trying to build a church, it's extremely hard. And while it is super hard, we're now starting to reap the benefits as it's growing and we're getting more people. And he's about to, go full time at the church finally after over 8 years. So it's an uphill battle, but it's the blessings are great and we're reaping the benefits from it. So teach your kids that even with hard work, there's, even after you work so hard, you're going to have a lot of blessings from it. So Karen said nursing home ministries are also great for teaching kids empathy. And I hope it makes an impression on them not to put us in a home. We actually go to a nursing home once a month, and it's like one of those assisted living places, and it's a super nice one. It always smells super good. They always have like free cookies and free popcorn, and it's actually a super nice one. But it does, and teach your kids to interact with the older people. The main reason we go is because we do have a bunch of little kids, and the old people love the little kids. They really do. They love, touching them and hugging them and things. So teach your kids to go there and talk to people, maybe in wheelchairs or, wherever, whatever it may be. So yeah, Cindy, that's good. Raise your kids right for your future grandkids. I think if we keep thinking of that, it'll put things in the right perspective for us. So yes, I definitely want to hear from seasoned mamas. Please leave comments below. And then Samantha said, yes, our generation swung the pendulum too far. They're too lenient now from trying to correct their parents being seemingly too strict. And that's true. A lot of it, I think that is a huge part of it, because especially for those of us maybe that were raised by I was raised by first generation Christians. And it was like, it's always about balance, always about balance. I've always said this, you have to find the balance. Because I feel like sometimes first generation Christians can be like, everything's evil, everything's sinful, no fun ever again, stop with the fun, never having a fun moment in life again. And that's a miserable environment. So it's all about finding that balance. So I think when my generation came along, they were a little bit resentful maybe of things they didn't get to do, which isn't always exactly right, but they're a little bit resentful. So because of that, they didn't want that for their kids. So then they were too lenient. So it's always about finding the balance. It's always about being strict and having standards, yet, everything's not a sin. It's all right to have some fun sometimes. It's all right to play Tetris sometimes. It's all right to play a video game sometimes. It's all right to play something on your phone and to have an hour where you just sit and drink tea, read a book, go on Facebook, whatever. It's okay to have those downtimes as long as the majority of your time is hard work and, enriching your life, things like that. So, okay, so let me read some of the last chat before I shut it down. Ecclesiastes 9:10. I don't know what that is. What is Ecclesiastes 9:10? Let me look it up. Okay, Ecclesiastes 9:10. I'm gonna look it up. Oh, yes. Whatsoever thy hand findeth to do, do it with all thy might. Very good. Very, very good. So Samantha said it's difficult raising kids to have personal responsibility these days when everyone is in the habit of making excuses. And that's a big thing. And that's why I said the thing about making excuses when you lose. Don't make excuses for why you lost. Sometimes we were talking about it with our girls before they ran the race, and we're like, you might lose. And you know what? If you lose, it's because someone was faster than you. That's all there is to it. It's not because your shoe wasn't tied right. It's not because, you didn't eat the right thing that morning. It's because someone was faster than you. That's just the sad truth of it. Someone's always going to be faster. Someone's always going to be quicker. And if you win, then great. You were the fastest one. And that's, worthy of a prize, or, that's worthy of feeling success over that you were the fastest one in that situation. So hi, Vanessa. You got in late. We're just about done. But if there's no more chat, hi, Naisha. Someone just popped on here. So if there's no more chat, I'm just going to go ahead and close it. I'm glad that it kept going, and I might be doing it more often from my home just because it's nice and easy with the baby and it being dark and things. So pardon the noise in the background, but the kids are pretty good. I've got like 3 of them sitting in here right now looking at me as Lana eats a banana. So anyways, I'm going to sign off now. You're welcome, Jocelyn. And good night, Dana. So I'm going to sign off now, and you guys go ahead and like it. Subscribe if you are not subscribed. If you're one of my regular listeners, you better be subscribed. We just crossed 1,700 subscribers, which is awesome. I never, ever in a million years thought I thought maybe I'd have like 100 subscribers at the most. So the fact that we passed 1,700 is awesome. Most of the videos get over 1,000 views, which is awesome. And they're going to get more if you guys share it. So like it, subscribe, share it, leave comments. All that stuff helps it go up on the rankings on YouTube. So it was great. I hope to have a guest on next week. Hopefully we can get Wirecast working. We're going to actually do a more serious topic next week. We are going to talk about grief and loss. I had a mom reach out to me. I'm not going to give her name, but she reached out to me and asked if we could do a show on this because she just had 2 of her kids died in a car accident. Horrible situation. I don't even know how to respond to that. That's one of my worst fears. It's probably the worst thing as a mom I could ever imagine happening. So we're going to have a special guest on next week who has gone through the valley of loss when it comes to children, infant children. So we're going to go through that, and we're going to discuss it. Kind of how should a Christian grieve? I get asked that a lot. So how should a Christian grieve? Is it okay to grieve? And of course my answer is yes, it's okay to grieve. So we're going to kind of go through the steps of how Christians should grieve and everything next week. So hopefully I can get Wirecast going. I might try to just have Dana on, not for a live. I was thinking today I might have Dana back on and just record a segment with her and then upload the second part of the soul winning where we got cut off last week. So maybe just have her, share some of her funny stories or something. And then I'll just upload that to YouTube as a regular video. So I have all these ideas of videos running through my head. So I'm trying to make it happen. But thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you next week. Bye.